Welcome back, guys. What's going on? Today we're going to talk about web scanning tools. So there are various tools to conduct web scanning, and by the way, web scanning is a term refers to the process of conducting scanning of a simple website where you aim to find misconfigurations and vulnerabilities. So actually, web scanning is part of the penetration testing process. So first you gather information, you discover that there is a website running on the target, then you decide to conduct web scanning to find what are the possible vulnerabilities you can exploit. Okay, we're going to talk about these tools, and after that we will apply we will take a target, okay, scan it with Nikto and OSSZap, and hopefully in the upcoming videos we will use Acunautics, and I guess I have a video on Nessus, you can watch it, and also OpenVAS. So still I got Acunautics to cover in the upcoming videos. Okay, so first let's talk about Nikto here. So Nikto is actually a command line tool. So it's command line scanner. Okay, it's actually the only scanner which is command line among these here. So command line scanner scans the target website. The most common option switch to scan the target is -H, and here specify the IP address. Nikto has a list of plugins to use against the target. Every plugin actually is designed and built to test the site against specific aspect, or to reveal a specific weakness or vulnerability. So Nikto operates based on the concept of that it has a database of vulnerabilities. Okay, and you can actually, if you use Nikto from time to time, it's recommended to update make sure Nikto is always up to date, to make sure that the database actually has the recent list of vulnerabilities, so that you can use that to scan the target. Now, what about OSSZap? So OSSZap is actually a GUI web scanner. It has its own crawler, and OSSZap focuses a lot on revealing the vulnerabilities that are in the top 10, in the OWASP top 10. So it focuses on OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, meaning it actually tries to reveal vulnerabilities such as XXS, CSRF, SQL, and so on and so forth. Also, OSSZap has a spider. So there is here, we call it spider. The spider aims to crawl to the site and reveal all of the contents of it, directories and files. So we can call it actually a spider. So it's safe to say that OSSZap can do the job of, GoBuster, if you know what's GoBuster, and Directory Buster. It can actually crawl the site and do the job of GoBuster and Directory Buster. If you don't like GUI interfaces, it's fine. You can use GoBuster and Directory Buster. Okay, now what about Acunautics? Now, I have something to say to you guys, that OSSZap and Nikto are both free of charge, and they come pre-built or pre-installed in Kali Linux, Parrot OS, also Backbox OSs. These OSs actually come with OSSZap and Nikto pre-installed, so you're free to use them. Now, what about Acunautics? Acunautics is not free, it's actually paid. Although you can download a free trial and test it out, Acunautics actually covers a broad range of vulnerabilities. So I think it has bigger database than Nikto and OWASP. So database here is actually bigger. Nope, not this one. So DB. So the contents of Nikto and OSSZap, in my own estimation, actually, the contents of database or the signatures actually are less than in the case of Acunautics. So it has bigger database. That's why it's paid. One of the reasons why it's paid. Nessus. So Nessus actually it's more than web scanner. It can be called as network scanner. So it can scan an entire range, entire subnet, such as for example 192.168.10/24. You can give Nessus a subnet and it will scan the entire subnet, all of the hosts on the network, discover live hosts, be able to identify open ports, and be able to identify vulnerabilities, whether in web components or non-web components. So web components and non-web components. Services such as SMB, RDP, it can identify vulnerabilities and out of date software in these services. So it's more actually, it's comprehensive scanner more than web scanner. What about OpenVAS? OpenVAS is actually, yeah, by the way, Nessus actually has community edition with a limited set of plugins, and it has the premium one. In premium one, actually there are more plugins and you can actually cover, there are more features. I didn't try them, but actually there are more features in the premium edition. Now what about OpenVAS? OpenVAS also can be considered as a network scanner. Okay, now the thing is OpenVAS is free and open source. It actually comes pre-built or pre-installed in Kali and I guess Parrot. So you can scan a network using OpenVAS. Both OpenVAS and Nessus give the ability to produce, say what? Reports. Okay. So these are the most common known scanners. Specifically, web scanners are Acunetics, OSSZap, and Nikto. I guess there are a lot more, but these are the most popular that I know of. Now let's jump to the practical part of this video. Okay. So I'm using the room called web scanning. Web scanning room discusses two web scanners, the OSSZap scanner and the Nikto. There are a couple of questions to answer. The questions revolve around your ability to use both scanners. Let's go through the questions and answer them. First, I'm using the attack box here, and I guess we will run both tools, and we will also run OSSZap. Okay, so first and foremost, what switch do we use to set the target host -h? We can talk about this. Websites, by the way, before answering the questions, you can find the answers by running nikto-h. And there you go. Websites do not always properly direct to their secure transport port and can sometimes have different issues depending on the manner in which they are scanned. How do we disable secure transport? It is the no SSL. Disable checking or disable using SSL. The opposite is actually true. If you want to consider SSL, you have to use the option -SSL, which is here. Next, what if you want to set a specific port to scan -p? For example, if the web server is running on port such as, let's say, nikto-h, and our target for this video is this. Now, if this target is running a different port other than 80, we can specify it like that, -p 8000 for example. Okay, as the web is constantly evolving, so is Nikto. A database of vulnerabilities represents a core component to this web scanner. How do we verify this database is working and free from error? By the option -db check. Let me run this first. Okay. Next, if instructed to, Nikto will attempt to guess and test both files and directories as well as usernames. Which switch and numerical value do we use to set Nikto to enumerate usernames in Apache? Keep in mind, this option is depreciated in favor of plugins. However, it's still a great option to be aware of for situational usage. So basically, this option is not commonly used. Instead, we can use the plugins that Nikto is supplied with, but for situational usage, as said in the question, we use -mutate3 to enumerate usernames. Now, here we talk about the credential check. For example, if you're scanning a page behind a page in the web server, which is protected behind a password or a login. So you have to specify the login, username and password with the option -ID, username and password. Let's scan our target machine. What web server do we discover? Okay, this is the scan has finished. We specified the -H option, and we can see in the results, it is actually revealing the server software, Apache, and the version. Here it is. The box is vulnerable to very poor directory control due to its web server version. What directory is indexed that really shouldn't be? Directory indexing is actually very known security misconfiguration where if you browse to a site, it will list you the files and directories in a list tree. So we call this directory indexing. So let's check the results. So see this directory here, configuration information may be available remotely. So if you browse the site here and type /config, you will see what I mean by saying directory indexing. So let's browse to the site /config. This is directory indexing. As you can see, files and directories are listed in a tree manner. Okay. Nikto scans can take a while to fully complete. Which switch do we set in order to limit the scan to end at a certain time? It is -until. But wait, there is more. How do we list all of the plugins are available? Okay, let's talk about the plugins. So, plugins are there to enhance the functionality of Nikto. By default, if you don't specify a plugin to use, Nikto will scan the targets with all of the plugins. For example, Nikto --list -plugins. Okay, so these are the plugins. If you want to save your time and have a thing in mind to scan the target against, you can check out the plugins and see what are the functionalities they offer. Apache users, for example, check whether we can enumerate usernames directly from the web server. Next one, see this one. Subdomain forcer attempts to brute force commonly known subdomains. If the target is a domain and it has subdomains, it will reveal it. Headers, robots, paths, and so on and so forth. Now, if we check out the help menu, there is an option called -plugins, list of plugins to run, default all. So, what does this mean? If I want to scan my target against a specific plugin, I would type Nikto -h and we specify the target. Okay, -plugins, and here we type the name of the plugin. Say the one meant in the question is on the flip side of the database. Plugins represent another core component to Nikto. Which switch do we use to instruct Nikto to use plugin checks to find out date software on the target host? It is outdated. Let's try it. Okay. So this is these are the results. Target IP, host name, target port, start time, server. Okay, let's try with all now. All to use all the plugins. Okay, nothing is different. So if we go back to the questions, this is the answer for this one and answer for this one. Finally, what if we would like to use our plugins to run a series of standard tests against the target host? We use tests. So if you scroll up, there is a plugin called tests, I guess. This is it. Nikto tests, test host with a standard Nikto tests. Let's try it. So root page redirects to login.php. Let's see if this is true. Should be true. Yeah. So this is the DVWA and it redirected me to /login. port proxy was in use. Try, yeah. This is the OSSZap. No. Okay. Now this is for Nikto, guys. Let's talk about OSSZap now. So, OSSZap has really simple interface. In this interface, on the right, you can see a box where you can start the scan. You put in the IP address of or the domain of the target, and you click on attack. Here you can see the requests that OSSZap has sent to the target and see the response. Basically, these two tabs, you use them along with the tab on the left. Here you can see the discovered content on the site. For example, I click on images. I see the request that OSSZap has made and the response we got in HTML format. Now, down here, we can see these tabs, history of the scans that have been made, alerts, vulnerabilities, security misconfigurations, output, search, spider. Here you can see all of the URLs that have been crawled and the directories. Active scan, here you can see the scans that are being or that are going actually in progress. So let's go back and answer the questions. Okay, launch Zap. What option do we set? Do we set in order to specify what we're attacking? It's actually the URL to attack. Next, Zap will discover a file that typically contains pages, which will be have web indexing engines will read in order to know which sections of a site to avoid. Now, if you work in SEO, search engine optimization, or even if you don't work in the SEO, it's very clear from the question that you don't need to go back and check. It is the robots text. One entry is included in the disallow section. Let's check the robots file. Okay, how do you know the contents? We check the response given back from the server, and we see everything is disallowed. Zap will find a directory that contains images for our application. What's the path for that directory? Okay, as you can see, by if we click on sites, this is the site we scanned, and here the first directory that has been discovered. Under that directory we have CSS and images directories, so this is the answer. This website doesn't force a secure connection by default, and Zap isn't pleased with it. Which related cookie is Zap upset about? So here the site doesn't force HTTPS, so the culprit is actually one of the flags. If you go here and check the cookie, no HTTP only flag, this is the answer. It's the HTTP only. When it's not set, it doesn't actually, the site doesn't force secure connection. Featured in various rooms on TryHackMe, cross-site scripting is a vicious attack that's becoming ever more common on the web. What alert does Zap produce to let us know that this site is vulnerable? We check the alerts section and we read through the alerts. You can see web browser XSS protection isn't enabled. This is an indication that the site is or might be vulnerable to XSS attack. So this is the answer. The Zap proxy spider represents the component responsible for crawling the site. We talked about this in the theoretical part of this video. What site is found to be out of scope? We check the spider section and we see this one is labeled with out of scope. Zap will use primarily two methods in order to scan a website. Which of these two HTTP methods requests content? Now, this question can be answered by knowing that HTTP uses two methods, right? It's get and post. Or you can check out this. The request actually method is get and the response method is post. The request is get, and when you want to post content, it's actually post. I don't think here we have, we have one. As you can see, post request. So, of course, this is not a comprehensive video on how to use these tools in a comprehensive way, a thorough way, of course not. You have to do more research, but that is a simple case of using both scanners to scan for web vulnerabilities. So I hope you guys liked the video and see you in the next one.